Working normal jobs has taught me why so many men feel trapped. You know, you wake up tired, you go to work, you give all your energy away all day long. You come home with barely enough energy left to train, to build something, to create something, or even to cook a decent meal, fold your clothes up, put them in a wardrobe, or get a shower, Then you ultimately feel guilty for not being able to squeeze more productivity out of the day. And this is the part, in life where you begin to start to think, well, is this it? Is this all life has to offer me? And I'm not saying this from some mansion who's figured it all out. I'm in the process of this. I'm someone who's still working, still figuring things out. I go to work almost every day. I'm still trying to build something after that or before that. I work, I create paintings, I create artwork, I create these YouTube videos. I go to the gym trying to reach my genetic potential in terms of strength, which is, a lifetime journey, I guess. And ultimately, I'm trying to build a better future for myself, for my children, and be a good dad amongst all of that. I'm trying not to let the tiredness win the battle. I think the real trap amongst this is letting your job become your identity, or allowing your job to put you in a feeling or in a position where you think that this is it. This is life now. This is me. This is the final version. There is nothing beyond it. Believing there is no other version of life available to you. The danger is not just working a normal job. The danger is when you stop dreaming beyond it. It's okay for the job to pay the bills. That's all good and well, but I think ultimately, if you're not careful, your job can shrink your imagination, which isn't going to be a good thing. I think, men ultimately feel trapped because they need money. They need to pay their bills. They feel behind. They feel tired after work. They compare themselves to other people constantly, especially in the age of social media. They feel ashamed that they're not further ahead or further down the path. They feel ashamed that they've not yet actualized the person that they thought they would be at this particular point in life. And, people can numb themselves, numb the feelings with all sorts of things. They can numb it with food, with drink, with scrolling, with porn, with games or drama, or whatever it is, just endless numbing of the feelings. Then ultimately a day's gone, another week's gone, another month's gone, a year's gone, 5 years have gone, a decade's gone. Your life's gone, There has to be a turning point somewhere. There has to be a turning point where you stop waiting to feel ready. There has to be a moment in life, and ideally before you have an existential crisis, there has to be a moment in life where even if you don't feel good, even when you don't feel inspired, you probably won't have perfect conditions. You may have to build tired, you may have to train tired, you may have to create tired, you may have to do something, learn a skill after work. You may have to ultimately make progress in the small scraps of time that you have in and amongst your life. And this is just the fact of reality. Most men are waiting for energy. Most men are thinking, oh, well, tomorrow I'll feel better, so I'll do it then. But usually the way out begins when you're already tired. And I think essentially the core message of the video is something like, your job might be paying your bills, but if your evenings decide your future, then what you do in your evenings is what matters. The practical points or the practical things I would try and encourage is to train. This will help you build self-respect for your body. It will also teach you patience and discipline. Create, so whether it's just making something that belongs to you, even if it's just a good healthy meal. You don't have to be Pablo Picasso, or you don't have to be Leonardo da Vinci sculpting crazy things. You can just create a decent meal or create a decent routine, or if you've got something in your house which you could maybe put your hands to, then do that. It doesn't have to be anything good or fancy or great. It's just a small thing that belongs to you. Save money. Train, create, save money. You can save money by stopping pointless spending, stop being frivolous, because ultimately money is something which can buy you time. buy you options, and people use money in such frivolous ways. They go spend 50 quid on a meal when they could have had beans on toast. And it's not wrong with going for a meal every now and again. I'm not saying never do that ever again in your life. If you want to go for a meal, then go for a meal. But if you've spent £200 this month on things which are ultimately pointless, then perhaps the next month don't do that. Building money or building savings slowly creates freedom, and freedom needs margin. You know, remove cheap escapes. You know, reduce anything that steals your evenings. This can be, like I mentioned earlier, it could be games, it could be TV, it could be entertainment, it could be drama, gossiping. If it's stealing your time, the time is the only thing which allows you to build anything. With no time, you already know what it is. It's game over. So time is the most valuable currency, and spending the most valuable currency on such frivolities is ultimately going to lead to nowhere. Now, I'm not saying there isn't time to be bored or be, procrastinate or have some entertainment. I'm not saying that. I'm not a militant disciplinarian in that all you should ever do is yes sir, no sir, 10 press-ups please. That's not the case. Some entertainment every now and again is absolutely fine, good and well, and probably healthy. But if you're watching 4 hours worth of TV every single night and then saying you don't have time for things, then something needs to change. Final practical point is keep one promise daily, non-negotiable promise every single day. One action that proves you are not out of the game, one action that proves you're not finished, one action that proves you're slowly moving to become the person you want to be, to have the life you want to lead. After work, just do one thing that belongs to your future. That could be your one non-negotiable, and it could be a small thing. I'm uploading daily at the moment. All things rebuilding, discipline, mindset, self-improvement, health, nutrition, training. A little bit of artwork in there as well, but ultimately leading a strong life and how to rebuild from the ground up, from working class roots. I'm Jake O'Neill. This is Jake O'Neill UK. Thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.